touching hands with someone seriously beautiful.
Hi everyone! Basically, I just got back from the cinema and today I went to go see the Oren Peli film Chernobyl Diaries. And Oren Peli might sound familiar to you, that is because he was the creator of the trilogy Paranormal Activity. In this video I'm going to be talking about all the different parts of the film that I liked and disliked. Now if you don't want me to spoil the film for you and you haven't seen it yet, turn off the video now. Right, I've waited long enough. Basically, the film stars Ingrid Bolso-Badal as Zoe, Dmitry Dyachenko as Yuri, Olivia Taylor-Dudley as Natalie, Devin Kelly as Amanda, Jesse McCartney as Chris, Nathan Phillips as Michael, and lastly Jonathan Sadowski as Paul. Now, the film starts off very happy and very quirky, and with a lot of clips that are made with portable video cameras. So the clips that probably the cast film themselves, which is a really good way to start a film. Now, the clips are of these four young people, you know, cruising around Europe. You see snapshots of London and also in Paris, and it then gets to a little more serious note where the four of them all go out for the night, and they come out of this club in one of the countries and they get sort of stopped by these men who are trying to basically hassle them. The guy Paul, who is Chris's older brother, sort of wards them away, sort of said, listen, we don't want any sort of trouble, and they get away. They meet in a cafe and they basically talk about their trip and that they're going to go to Moscow, but Paul insists that instead they go to see where the Chernobyl disaster happened. Now, Chernobyl was a big disaster that happened in 1986 and basically had a massive effect on that area of Europe. Many people suffered from major radiation burns, and the radiation stayed with people a long time. And I mean, there's a story that's on the internet about this one woman who gave birth and her baby was seriously deformed, and that was 4 years after she left the site where the Chernobyl disaster took place. There's also a museum with lots of different exhibits from that disaster, such as models of animals and how deformed they actually got, like they're missing limbs and they've got extra eyes and stuff like that, which is really, really disturbing. Anyway, after some hesitation they all agree to go, and they contact this guy called Yuri, who takes them to the site and is basically fanned away. The two guards that are at the gates tell them that they should not be coming into the site because of some problem that they're occurring. Yuri decides that he would take them through the back exit. Now, this is a stupid thing to do because, not being funny, if guards that are basically from the military tell you that you should not be going into this site, then you shouldn't go in. And now on the actual site of Chernobyl there's actually still some live radiation about, but it's very small amounts, which means it's pretty harmless to people. Luckily, people who actually go on the real tours around Europe, they actually have guards with them that have radiation meters which actually tell them how much radiation there is on each site, so if it does get to a dangerous level then they can vacate the area. So Yuri and the 6 other tourists all go into the site and they start to have a look around and sort of look at all the history that involves in the place. Now Amanda just walks around and starts taking photos of all the different sorts of things, and Yuri just sort of gives his comments on the actual area and also the disaster which took place. Now, some parts of the film are true, such as the radiation levels and also the actual setting itself. But the whole mutant thing isn't exactly true, because I mean there have been no reports in papers about mutants being seen at the site of Chernobyl. While they're all walking around, they hear a noise, and so stupidly they go and investigate it. They creep further and further into this derelict building, and all of a sudden a bear comes flying towards them. Now, I'm not being funny, but I didn't like that part of the film for the simple reason, where the hell did this bear come from? I mean, this bear was just in this building, and the doors in the building are pretty small, so this ginormous brown bear would in no way be able to get inside all of those tight corridors into those small rooms. I just thought that part of the film was completely ridiculous. It did scare me though, I mean when the bear came running out, because it was the last thing I was expecting. But I didn't really see the point in it being a bear. I mean, it could have been a wolf or a big dog or something more terrifying, but it was a brown bear. So after they escape the building and they get away from that terrifying bear, they decide enough is enough, fun is over, we'll go back to the car. But as all good horror films go, the car doesn't start. So they hear a noise while they're in the complete pitch darkness of the car. All they've got is literally the little headlight bits in the car, and they can't see like anything. Chris goes with Uri to find out what's making these noises in the woods. So they get out of the car and they take the flashlights, and the next thing you know, you hear a gunshot. And Paul runs out of the car trying to find his brother Chris, and after much suspense, you just see banging on the glass, and Paul and Chris crawl back into the car. Uri is nowhere to be seen, and they presume him to be dead. Chris is really badly hurt, and he's got big bite marks on his legs, and he says there was something else out there. But we then find out that there was actually dogs that were out there, but there was a lot of them. But then we still get the feeling that there is something else out there. So when it gets to daylight the next day, Paul decides to go on the hunt for Uri, and Chris has to stay in the car with his girlfriend because he's very badly injured. So he takes Michael and Amanda with him. They go on the search for Uri and they find his body, which has been completely devoured, and then the boys run out the room, leaving Amanda completely stranded as this something comes into the room. We later find out that that's actually a mutant person, and the reason that he's mutated is because of all the radiation that was there. Back to Amanda. She's stranded in this kitchen, and there's this thing eating part of Yuri's body. And so she finally grabs his gun and legs it out of the kitchen. When they get back to the car, they decide to take Zoe with them to try and find some car parts for the car, because the reason that the car didn't start was because the wires in some sort of ignition or engine or something had been chewed. So they needed to get these wires from somewhere else. So they go on the hunt and they find all these abandoned cars, and luckily find some wires that fit Yuri's Jeep. When they get back to the Jeep, they realise that it's gone and it is nowhere to be seen. The four of them all go running around trying to find it, and they realise it's been tipped upside down, and both Chris and Natalie are nowhere to be seen. So the four of them then go on the hunt for both Chris and Natalie, and they can't find Chris anywhere, but then Natalie stumbles into them later on, and she's completely traumatised by the whole event. Paul then wants to take the gun and, go shooting the place down, yelling for his brother, but Michael reassures him that his brother is probably safe and that they will find him once they get back to the checkpoint in order to get some military assistance. After they travel a bit more, they place Natalie down by these stairs, and they start looking at this map to try and find out how far they are from the next rescue point. But they notice a little girl standing behind them. As Paul calls out to the little girl, you see a shot of Natalie sat by the stairs, and there's a figure stood behind her. Natalie screams and gets dragged down the staircase. When the camera flips back, the little girl's gone. So they all run after Natalie, as they do, and try and find her.